Hello and welcome to another episode of the StarCommand Podcast. I am David Seymour here with my good friend Alan Bragg. We're here to bring you all things football. Alan, we are like 16 days away from week zero of college football. We don't have any of the real huge marquee games going on. We do have our normal Dublin Ireland game going, but we've had the in the past we've had the Colorado games and a couple of decent matchups on week zero, and it feels like it's a little bit lacking this year. But let's be real, we're gonna tune in because that's what we do. But we're going into a new season. They've kind of expanded the playoff again and kind of working through some things. You've got SEC and Big Ten is the big topic right now. The SEC has been super dominant for years and years and years during the BCS and all of that. And it seems like as we move into this playoff format and these realigned conferences, man, the Big Ten's really starting to take the cake. I mean, the last three national championship winners have all been Big Ten teams, and it's been a different Big Ten team every year. It's not even the same Big Ten team. So their dominance, we always talk about that the Big Ten super top heavy, and when you get into the smaller schools, they're not as good. And that's why the Ohio States and the Michigans are always so good, because they're just the cream of the crop, while the SEC beats up on everybody. That's it's better football. But I don't know that you can say that it's the case after Indiana wins its first ever college football national championship.
For sure. That you're right. The Big Ten is always top heavy. They've got the main three, the Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Hmm.
And then the SEC has got the meat and potatoes, right? It's
Right.
eight teams deep. But then the Big Ten, you mentioned Big Ten goes out, gets Michigan, then Ohio State, and then Indiana for the trifecta.
Yep.
Throwing in Indiana in there, the team the little engine that could, and gives everybody hope, across
Right.
the college landscape. I know me as a Razorback fan, it gives me hope that it can happen. We need that one year. We need the right transfers to come in, the right guys to come in from the portal, the right bit of freshmen, the right just it can happen.
You
You
can.
just need everything to come together for one year. Um, but the Big Ten now is getting stronger and stronger with adding USC,
Yeah.
or Oregon.
Right.
Their top heavy looks pretty dang good too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? When the Pac-12 collapses, that's all they took was the top teams, right?
That's right.
Oregon, USC. Now, UCLA is not considered a
Still lay
top
down.
team, but that was kind of
They
that
got
package deal
right.
with USC. And then
Helps them in other
Washington.
sports. Yeah, in
Right, right.
Washington.
And Washington, where they're not consistently good, every 3 or 4 years, there's, a
They're a decent
Washington.
program.
Yeah, yeah. They keep it going. And the SEC is still, I think, where the big boys come to play, so to speak. But I feel like that if they don't find a national champion here real soon, they're going to start losing some of that.
Well, let's talk about the top. Let's talk about the top dogs in the SEC, right? Because Ohio State's going to be there
Yeah,
for sure.
and Texas.
Oregon is going to be there. You can count
Yeah,
on those two teams.
yeah.
We'll see what Penn State does, but USC's on the up and up. Um,
Michigan just had the coaching scandal last year, but
and
they hired a really good head coach,
they'll be
the guy
back,
from
and
Utah.
Indiana is still in the top 10, so
Oh
they're
yeah,
not going anywhere.
absolutely.
So let's go to the SEC. Well, Bama's dropped off a little bit, right? They're winning 9 games now, 10 games, and they're not winning 12 and 13. So
Right.
that dominant Alabama team that you can always count on. Georgia's been dominant, but I'm not sure what's going on with Georgia. Their defense is still elite, but they're not going out there and just blowing you away with wideouts and running backs anymore like they used to
No.
have talent across the board. And they're there. They got the 5 stars.
Right.
Why they're not putting
Absolutely.
it why they're not putting it together on offense, I don't know, but that's supposed to be the cream of the crop. It's supposed to go out there every week and be a juggernaut, no matter who they play, where they home or away. Georgia's supposed to be running all over you. They kind of haven't. The defense has been kind of
Hmm.
their
Absolutely.
calling card. A&M is supposed to be a team every year. That's supposed to be 12 win teams, right? The
The team
12
that
win
never
team.
could. Talk about
Yes.
Indiana being the little engine that could. Texas A&M is a team that never could.
They're
They always
spending the
have
money,
these.
they're
Yep.
hyped, and then they don't live up to it.
No.
Um, Ole Miss was the team that with Lane Kiffin had brought them up to they were top 10, a lot of hype behind them. The offense was there, got great defense, and they made it. And then we'll see if they can hold it because Lane
Right.
Kiffin's down in Baton Rouge right now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Absolutely.
he's down there with the Cajuns and the LSU Tigers, has them hyped up for a year where everybody's predicting them to be a top 10 team. Who am I
Yeah.
leaving? Did I leave anybody out of the top?
Yeah. Yeah. You absolutely left
Oh yeah,
somebody
no,
out.
I forgot
Yeah. Yeah.
about the two. There's two of you, y'all. Go ahead, take over for one of them.
Yes.
Boomer
Yeah. The
Sooners,
Texas
go
Long.
ahead.
Nah, yeah. Right. The Texas. The Texas Longhorns, we had a little bit of a down year last year. It was a little bit of growing pains for Arch Manning. He had way too much hype coming in, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody else was. We saw the Manning name and all of the highlights from high school, and he got to sit a couple of years, and we just felt like he was going to come in and and be what Quinn Ewers couldn't get us over that hump. Quinn Ewers brought us to the line, and we were just hoping that Arch was going to bring us over the top immediately, and it just didn't happen. Right, there's some growing pains there. A lot of good things coming out of camp. We brought in that wide receiver Coleman out of Auburn in the offseason to give him a little bit more firepower, a little bit more weaponry to throw to. Uh, Rebolstered the defense as we've lost a lot of guys to the draft, but
You got another stud at wideout too. You got that Coleman, and there's another stud. Your running back, his name's Hollywood.
right.
Hollywood something.
The stud at wide receiver that you're thinking of has actually left and gone to the team that you were trying to joke about earlier and went to the Boomer Sooners.
Who is that?
The little white kid, I forget what his name is, and I can't think of it right off the top of my head.
No,
But
this kid I'm thinking of is not white.
okay, okay, but yeah.
What's his
So,
name? It's a name that we should know. Anyway,
but to and is the Red River rivalry and all of that. I don't want to give OU any credit, but they're always right there in the mix. But to go on a couple of things that you talked about is I think that we're going to be surprised as long as they get their starting quarterback thing figured out. I think we're going to be really surprised by Alabama this year. They're a team to watch out for. It's going to be the third year in Kalen DeBoer's system. He's finally starting to get his recruits and his transfers in and kind of it's a tough act to follow to come in behind a legend like Nick Saban, and they have completely opposite styles of play, right? Kalen DeBoer is an offensive guy. Nick Saban was a DB's, cut his teeth as a DB coach, so they have completely different styles. So Kalen DeBoer is still trying to get his footprint, his fingerprints onto this Alabama team. And I think we're going to start seeing that more as some of the players have kind of moved on, and he's able to get his guys around.
and it's
See,
crazy to think that we look at them as being down, and they're still
right,
they're still
right.
upper echelon. They're still I don't know if you'd say the word. They're used to
They're still fighting for a playoff spot every year.
for
They're
sure
in the mix every
for
year.
the SEC championship, and they're right
Yeah.
there. They're not blowing the doors off everybody every week.
Right. And then with Georgia, as funny as it is to say, but since Todd Monken left as the offensive coordinator, you remember he was the OC during those championship runs. He leaves to go be the Ravens offensive coordinator and is now the Browns head coach.
And I'm
And they're
glad you
off
brought that up because I forgot that, but I knew the offense. There's something wrong with that. They're not
yeah,
a juggernaut on the offensive side of the ball. They're not
right,
explosive down the field anymore. They don't have that guy that is going in the first round as a second round running back that they were
right.
putting in the league,
Yeah, no Nick Chubbs, none, yeah.
Marinos, and
Right. And so, and it's just the ebbs and flows of it as coaching staffs change. Ole Miss is another one. They're bringing back a lot of their players that they had last year during that run.
quarterback being the main one.
Quarterback being the main one. He won all his little lawsuits and stuff to be able to come back for his sixth year. And so it'll be interesting to see what that coach can do. He did a great job. If you think about taking over a team at the end of the season, right before the playoffs start, because the head coach that's been leading your team is left to take another job. The the way those kids had to feel inside that locker room, watching that dude that had led them this far and made all of these promises to them walk out the door on them, to be able to rally those guys up, coach them up. And now, granted, he had a lot of the offensive staff was allowed to stay around and help them through that. So all of those guys have now left and followed Lane Kiffin down to LSU. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of staff he's brought in, what kind of program he runs. But I feel confident that with the returning players and the way that that coach was able to handle things, Ole Miss should still be in the mix this year.
I agree.
Um,
The talent's there for sure.
yeah, and Texas A&M's just it's just it's the most confusing team on the face of the planet. Mike Elko's a great head coach. I mean, they went undefeated the what a couple of years ago, and then we beat them in what was essentially the SEC championship game down there in College Station and stole their playoff spot away from them. So it's just kind of
I got a question for you. All
what's
right.
that?
If you were to take, so we talk about who's top heavy, who's got the better, better overall. If you were to put up, would we say agree that Georgia and Texas are the top two teams in the SEC?
Top two teams right now, yeah,
Well,
absolutely,
and I think we 100% agree it's Oregon and Ohio State in the Big Ten.
yeah,
All right.
absolutely,
Who do you
yeah,
see out of those two? You combine their records at the end of the season. Which two top two, who's got the better record? Who's who's what would it be? They're 12 and 1. Who's 24 and 2?
yeah,
And for me, it's not hard. It's the Big Ten. It's Oregon and
yeah,
Ohio State. I see
right,
both of them being 12 and 1, 11 and 1.
because of the top heaviness of because while we talk about the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Texas and Texas A&M and OU, that's five teams right now. We've got what five? You could name five teams in the Big Ten. After those five teams in the Big Ten, you don't really have anybody. Nobody's worried about Purdue or Michigan State or
Northwestern.
UCLA or Northwestern or Illinois or, the list goes on. But after the five that we've named, you've still got South Carolina. As much as I don't like the Gators, Florida's going to be better this year. They've got a better coach. They've gotten some good transfers. They are going to be improved this year. Uh, LSU's still going to be there. Lane Kiffin's at least going to have a high-powered offense. So you're going to have to score to keep up with him.
For sure.
I
And
mean,
Missouri's coming in at 25, I believe, in the
yeah,
preseason rankings. A tough place.
Missouri's always that tricky team in that, Tennessee's always decent,
Tennessee. Yeah.
right? Like, so when you
Go
start,
play Rocky Top on an 8 o'clock
right,
Saturday night game.
we have to play them
Yeah.
this year. Yeah. And I think it's in Tennessee. Uh,
Speaking of, I actually drove by that stadium on Wednesday on my way to the airport.
it's a crazy stadium. My
It took
dad
me
did some,
right. It freeway took me right by the stadium, and I was like, "Oh, that's Neyland Stadium." And so I pulled
yeah,
off and drove through the campus. Man, beautiful campus.
yeah, absolutely. My dad did some recruiting duty up in Bristol, Tennessee. Everybody up that way is a Tennessee fan. So I've been by the stadium. I've never been to it, but I've been by it a few times. And it's a gorgeous stadium. And
But yeah, to think we just named off like 9 teams, and then Tennessee. Oh yeah, Tennessee.
mhm, right, because there's just so many. I mean, South Carolina is one of those teams that they're either going to be up or down. There's a lot of hype going in on that Lenoris Sellers kid this year. He has a bounce back year from what he had last year. Just the year before last, they were a nine win team.
Who would you
They were
say
knocking on the door.
Who would you say? Let's name the bottom four. Who's the bottom four in the Big Ten? You got Northwestern,
Northwestern, Rutgers,
UCLA,
UCLA,
and
Maryland. I don't
yeah,
even know if Maryland's really the bottom four, though. I
and
mean,
that,
you
but
got,
that's right there where you start. Okay, so you're getting to the bottom four, and they've got what, 16 teams?
yeah, 16
Yeah,
or 18
yeah, I think they might have 18. And then the bottom four in the SEC
would be
are
Vanderbilt, which really,
Arkansas.
I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, they don't have Diego Pavia anymore, but
They were a tough beat for
yeah,
sure.
last
So
couple of
I'd
years,
say
they
Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and then
Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas.
Mississippi State. That's the
Yeah,
four.
Mississippi State. Yeah, that's your bottom four. That's your almost can check it off as a win.
Right.
But you can't check any of those off as a win in the SEC. You can check off a Rutgers, Michigan State. If you go out and just play your game, if you're an Ohio State or an Oregon or USC or any of those teams, just go out and play a halfway decent game. You're resting your starters by halfway through the third quarter in those games. There's
I would
very
agree.
few games like that in the SEC.
I would agree. I think the Big Ten is who's pushing for a 24 team playoff. And so it's 12 teams one more year, and then I think in 2027 they're going to go to 16. I think that's the agreement right now. We got one more
Okay.
year of the 12 team playoff.
Okay.
Then it's going to go to 16. And I think that's where SEC's good with. But the Big Ten wants 24. They are pushing for 24. They want the 24 team playoff. What do you think about that?
I think it's too many.
I agree.
Honestly, I think 16's too many. I can understand it to a degree, but I really think 12 is like your perfect scenario. 12 is the
16
absolute perfect.
16 essentially would just take out bye weeks, I would imagine, right? But
Yeah.
then you got your top tens, the top teams we just named playing 16, 15, 14, 13 seeds that are sneaking in out of small colleges
Right.
or small conferences and are just going to get we waxed because they're going to be playing those teams at home
And
or traveling to go to Athens and Ohio State.
and here's honestly what I think is we should keep it at 12 teams. I think 12 teams is perfect, but we need to quit letting these smaller conferences in. If you're not a Power Four conference, you don't get into the 12 team playoff. I know it sounds harsh, but how many we've watched it every year so far is these Mountain West teams or whatever they are come in here, the Tulanes and the Boise States and the all of these guys sneak into the playoff because we got to have one of these,
Yeah, because they won enough games to be ranked 11th,
right.
at the end
Or
of the
what was
year.
it? What was it last year? It wasn't even you didn't even have to be ranked 11th. You just had to be ranked
The highest,
the
yeah, the
highest. Yeah, the highest.
fifth extra, whatever
Yeah,
conference. Yeah, yeah. Out of
yeah,
the Power
yeah.
Five.
Correct. Outside of the Power Four, and so
We've seen it even the same thing with
Group of
like the
Five. That's what we
ACC.
called it. The Group of Five.
Yeah.
You had to be the highest ranked Group of Five member, and you got to get in. And we've watched them they get the doors blown off of them, and it's essentially a bye week for whoever plays them because they have to play a half,
Right.
and then get to take the second half off. But as a viewer, I would much rather a Notre Dame should have gotten in rather than a Tulane last year. I mean,
Yeah, it's
so
not
if
set
we
up like basketball, where
no,
basketball you can have a legitimate Cinderella because it's 5-on-5 on a neutral court.
right,
And basketball just has that magic feel where six guys can work together for um, 40 minutes and can pull off an upset, right?
right.
And in football, it's just different. In football,
Well,
it's
and you I look at it this way too. Basketball body styles. I feel like in sports, body styles matter, right? And there's only so many body styles for basketball. There's I mean, Diego Pavia is 5'8", like 185, playing quarterback in the SEC. And he was great. Don't get me wrong, but when you start looking at this, and you can see it when you see some of these smaller schools come in, the size of the kids that are, on the Georgias and the Ohio States and then you see a Tulane show up, and you're like, it's men among boys. And when you're talking about just brute force wins in this game,
not to mention the 8 defensive linemen that Georgia's rotating and
right?
Ohio State's
Yeah,
rotating.
yeah,
And they've got, three guys. Then maybe they've been a great coalition and a great unit all year, but Tulane's got 3 guys that are legitimate athletes and a freshman out there, and
right,
they don't have a sub,
right,
And
exactly.
so
And whereas, in basketball, when you have that true Cinderella, somebody gets hot, right? Some guys, you got some Steph Curry guy out there just draining threes able to keep up with you because while you're shooting twos and dunking all over the shorter guys, he's raining down threes, and it's set up different. And I feel like too that
But that's what's made us love the Cinderella. That's why we want
right,
these
right.
little school. That's why we want these little colleges to make the playoff because we've seen it in basketball, these magical Cinderella runs, and we're like, we want to see that. It's such a feel-good story. But football's different. You know,
Hmm.
it's just we at the end of the day, we want to see the best competition as a viewer. We want
Absolutely.
like you said, Notre Dame getting in. It would have been a better story, a bit better football, and that's what ultimately we want to see. We've got to get out of
Yeah.
our head that a small school is going to get in this playoff and do something, and they're just not.
No. And
Right?
I and I get and I get
If
that.
they're that,
And the other thing about it is it's a money thing, right? As soon as you make the playoffs, it's X amount of dollars because you're getting money from the television, the television of televising of the game. You're getting exposure for your school, so other kids that maybe don't get into a Georgia see a Boise State or Tulane or whatever, and oh, they just made it to the playoff. If I don't make it here, maybe I can go there and at least I get some exposure. Not at a big name program, but I'm at a program that's doing big things. So I get some of the business aspect of allowing it to happen. But man, let this group of five go off and create their own, branch off from, maybe their Division 1A of college football, and they have their own little playoff where they play each other in their own national title and their own top 25 ranking, and those kids can still transfer into the bigger schools if these bigger schools see them and, because that's the other thing that's killer is the transfer portal. I was listening to a couple of guys the other day talking about it, said it's been the worst thing for college football because one of the guys was asking about some player. He's like, man, whatever happened to this guy? He said the same thing that's happening to like 3,000 kids a year is that they don't have a legitimate offer from somewhere, decide they're going to jump into the transfer portal, nobody picks them up, and they can't go back to their old team and their college career is over with.
hmm. Wow, that's the side you don't hear. That's the side you don't
Yeah.
hear of it. You
Right.
know,
And
I
these
what
agents,
bothers
these
me,
agents aren't telling them about it, right? Because they're hoping
right?
they can go get them an NIL deal.
Well, the side of it that I see all the time is like there's the three big transfers this year, the quarterbacks. There's the kid, I think his name's Hoover, that's going to, is he going to Indiana? The quarterback that
Yes.
the
I think
quarterback that the quarterback that was at let me see if I can remember here. Okay, the kid from Duke, Mezwal, is going to Miami.
correct.
The kid Levitt from Arizona State is going to LSU.
Yep.
So yeah, Hoover, that kid is going. He's from where was he playing at? He's transferring into Indiana, which is giving them a solidified. Where's he from? But it's two of those guys, Mezwall and Levitt. It's their third college now, so
Correct.
they're just not coming from the school before. Like they went to a school, transferred to another school. Now they're on their third school. That's the side of it that is crazy, right?
Yeah.
The as a fan, you don't get to know the kids. You know,
Yeah.
you have no loyalties. You're definitely not tied to the community,
Yeah.
and by the time you get to the NFL and you're on Monday Night Football, and they're like, hey, starting quarterback Alan Bragg started at Arkansas State University, then went to the University of Florida, then went to Clemson, and then for his fourth year went to the University of Arkansas. It's like you got to name all four schools. That's what we're getting at. These kids are just
Yeah.
jumping ship every
Well,
single year.
and the other part of that is they're getting a bad example of how the business of football works for when they do get to the NFL. Because you don't get to the NFL and play
No.
for a year and be like, oh, I'm not getting enough reps.
Oh, the
I'm
grass is greener over
transferring.
there.
Yeah, I'm transferring. I want a chance to win a Super Bowl. The Chiefs just went. Let me go transfer over there. You don't get to do that. If, as a matter of fact, if you get to if you get to do that, it's usually at the end of your career because you ain't got much left in the tank, and somebody's hoping that they can just pop enough juice out of you to get.
On a $2 million deal. Yeah.
You're right. So I don't know. I think that there's going to have to be some sort of regulations put on this between the transfer portal and the NIL money and uh
Yeah, we've talked about this previous. I think we talked about this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
contracts. There's got to be some type of contract that these kids are signing and it should be 2 years. These kids should sign 2 year contracts. Let them make their money. Sign two
Yeah.
years for $1 million. Break it down easy. $1 million, 2 years. This is what you're required to do. You're going to be here for 2 years. That way the coaches and they can have agents. It can be treated like the NFL. It's gonna have, like you said, it's got to have some type of control. So let's get control. Start writing these kids contracts. That way they can learn. I've got a signed contract. I got to stick this out, even if it's I'm losing reps or I don't like what the coach said to me. Um,
Yeah.
but but I think it can't be a year-to-year thing. They've got to start locking in 2 year contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things we're seeing right now too is I just read an article earlier. Texas Tech can't get anybody to schedule them
Mm.
between what happened with the Sorsby thing and just how quickly they've come up because of how much money they have. They have all that oil money out there in Lubbock, and they're starting to they're starting to not just be the little, pop up on the schedule, give me an easy win, we'll get them some exposure type game anymore. But they've kind of become a legit team over the last couple of years. But between that and the Sorsby gambling thing and how willing they were to stick with him over that, they're having trouble getting a non-conference games scheduled. So it'll be interesting to see how some of this plays out.
Yeah, we'll have to dive into that next time we're talking college football.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I think the SEC's got to come out this year and prove something. And but I don't know if they can just because of the Big Ten scheduling. It's an easier path to the playoff than the Big Ten.
It's gonna be a good year, obviously, man. Excited about it. It's gonna be
You guys,
exciting.
yeah, you guys got a new coach.
We got Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. He's coming in. He's there's well, I don't know. I don't know what to think, right? It's a new
Yeah,
coach.
well,
We're always
Florida State
excited.
got one of those Memphis coaches not too long ago. How's that working out for them?
Yeah, there's always excitement when you get a new coach, but
Yeah,
we've got a quarterback battle going on between Jackson and Hill, and two good athletes, two good quarterbacks. One transferred from Memphis, one was already there at Arkansas, one came with Silverfield. But we'll see. We're not deep, and
yeah,
that's the thing. We got to nail the guys that are playing, right? The quarterback's got to be four of our five offensive linemen have got to be legit and healthy. Got to have a couple wide receivers pop because we don't have five of them, pop five wide receivers. So, but I'm obviously excited. We start off with I think North Alabama, and then we're at Utah, and then Georgia comes to Fayetteville. So we're gonna find out real quick.
yeah. We're gonna find out real quick too. We got week 2 Ohio State's coming down to Austin.
Yes,
So
what a game. That's awesome. Yes,
yeah,
yeah, I'm glad the college football does that because what great games those are to kick off the year, first couple weeks,
absolutely.
getting the big boys to play.
Well, brother, I think that'll have to about do it for us for the night. Um, Boy, I'm ready for these games to kick off and us to have some real stuff to talk about, not hypothetical stuff. So
I don't know about you, but I was watching the Steelers and the
I
game that was
sure,
on earlier, and it was trash. The Packers. I was like, why
yeah,
can't we get Carson back and King back out here?
no
You know what I
kidding.
mean?
Absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you tuning in, all 20 of you. Alan's got a little deal going on where if you can guess the name of that bear, he's going to give you $100 as long as you're a subscriber. And apparently, there's a difference between a public and private subscriber. So make sure you subscribe publicly so we know you subscribed. Guess the name of the bear, and Alan's going to send you $100. So with that, Star Command is out.